Mr. Ahmed Seedat of Vector Consulting South Africa. Mr. Seedat is a very well-known businessman, both locally here in Durban, South Africa, as well as globally, and has done business all over Southern African countries as well, very successfully. He's also the best-selling author of 2 well-known family-owned business books, which we'll get into a little later. But Mr. Seedat, I think you're tackling quite an amazing topic, the dynamics of succession in family-owned businesses. And you have this upcoming conference, which is now the 2nd international conference that's dealing with this topic. It's a very niche topic. Not very many companies in South Africa are tackling it. You're not only passionate about it, but you're also qualified and have an MBA whose thesis deals strictly with this. So can you please tell me, what is the importance of exploring this topic, both in conversation with your clients, but also on such a large platform as you're doing now with the conference in Johannesburg at the Continental Hotel on the 7th of March this year?
Sheetal, thank you. The dynamics of succession in family-owned business is not only about family-owned businesses. It's got to do with practices as well. I'm talking about your medical practice, your legal practice, your accounting practice as well. And those are also businesses per se. And what's happening is that we are finding many challenges presently, generational challenges. Generational challenges in the sense that, you see, education has changed considerably. Pre-1994, post-1994. Most of us that my age that are tackling this topic is got to do with cultural intelligence. Now, the cultural intelligence and the emotional intelligence that were in families prior to 1994 were totally different in South Africa, from a South African context. Post-1994 is totally different. So what's happening is that we need to bridge this generational conflict. So if we can bridge this generational conflict, what happens is that businesses will succeed. We will mitigate, at least we would increase the success rate of businesses presently.
So Mr. Seedat, based on that answer, what I wanted to ask you about is, obviously unpacking this topic further. You've now got quite a high level, very well recognized internationally recognized professor who, operates out of the University of Stellenbosch in Cape Town. Tell us a little bit more about this collaboration, about, his efforts into this topic and why it's important to have him as a keynote speaker.
Professor Ungerer is talking the same language which we are talking about, and that is sustainability, right? So basically what he's doing is that he has delivered a paper which is called the Family Business Success Map to enhance the sustainability of multi-generational family businesses.
So what does that mean to like a delegate coming through?
Like a delegate coming there, what it'll do is that it will give you, it will show you how to handle your businesses. Basically, what will happen is that Prof Ungerer's topic, his entire conference paper is going to do with you. Someone has to watch the radar of the business.
Sure.
Right.
And is that something you're seeing that's not happening in family-owned businesses?
No. Family businesses, everybody wants to be on the steering wheel. Everybody wants to be the radar operator.
Yeah.
But what Prof comes in, and his paper is based on giving people duties, roles, responsibilities, and he shows you how to manage how to make your business sustainable.
Structurally, by giving step-by-step guides.
Step-by-step guides.
Sure.
At the same time, what he does is that he shows you how to manage conflict.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? So basically, by you having an individual watching the radar, this person is head of the radar department. Right, so he's watching for what's happening around his environment, to see where they are in the environment.
Sure.
Then we have somebody that's on the steering wheel. So he tells you, this is what at a family meeting, like a structured family meeting, whether it's once a week or once a day or every second day, whatever it is. The timing of the meetings depends on the families themselves. But what will happen is that the person on the radar will say, this is what's happening. So what we're going to do. So you can always look at how your mission is going to be. If you have your vision, and at the same time you have those in the engine room.
Sure.
Right. Those in the engine room is normally the operations. So everybody can't be in the operations, and there's nobody steering at the top.
So are you saying that a delegate coming to your conference is going to learn skills and tools and communication tools and other essential structural tools that from beginning to end teach them this entire day with you on how to move forward more, not just successfully, but almost more structurally and more sustainably once they attend?
Yeah, what happened is that the sustainability is very important.
Sure.
So what the message that we are, the theme of this of the conference is preservation of wealth.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're going to do is that if you can, we are showing you techniques for you to preserve your wealth. Right. You know your business.
Yeah.
But what we know is that we want to assist you to handle generational conflict. We want you to assist you on your governance. So this is what we are talking about. So if you have all the systems, procedures, all this mechanism in place, then we're able to preserve your wealth. Right? And at the same time, while you're preserving your wealth, you're moving your business from mediocrity to excellence. Right? So, William Shakespeare said this many centuries ago, to be or not to be.
Sure.
So this is where many family businesses are, either to be or not to be.
Sure. But Mr. Seedat, based on that now, let me ask you, you do work in Qatar, you do work in Tanzania, you've done work all over the world. You're very well known in South Africa. You obviously host a lot of monthly monthly seminars, breakfasts and other events to try and gear change at a much lower level. I mean, the conference is fantastic because it's allowing people from all over to kind of meet in one place and enjoy that message and that structural kind of lessons and things in one day. But in all of your travels of all the different places, and the dynamics of businesses change country to country because laws and regulations are different. Also, I think culturally how people are raised in their environment, not just the laws, also kind of affects or impacts the way a business runs or the understanding. What are some of the traditional kind of issues you've noticed as a common line in family-owned businesses specifically? And is there any really one main theme that you think would really help family-owned businesses?
Communication.
Okay.
The common line, the common thread throughout the world is communication. But I just want to tell you something that whether it's in South Africa, the mindset changes from suburb to suburb. Right? Sure. And it's not just from country to country regarding family businesses.
Why is that though?
It's got to do with education. It's got to do with the cultural intelligence. It's got to do with the whole lot of the vibe of suburbs to suburbs. So you find that, example, in the north of, predominantly I'm doing a lot of business in KZN. The mindset in the south of Durban compared to the mindset in the north of Durban is totally different. Sure. So people think differently, they handle their businesses differently. Sure. And basically to the west of Durban is the same scenario. You find that industrialists, those that are in industry, they think totally different from those that are in wholesale and retail. Sure. But I'm talking about the mechanics of business, which is all the same. So what's happening is that it's how they handle their business. What's happening is that whether it's coming back to communication, you need to communicate at all levels, right? And
why is this different for, if you don't mind me asking, generally in business, communication is an important, vital and imperative kind of key function for any business to succeed. But why is it specifically even more so important for family-owned businesses? Is it because family-owned businesses don't communicate in a traditional way that normal business structure does? Are they doing things differently that's kind of impacting them in a negative way? What would be the emphasis on communication, especially for FOBs?
Family-owned businesses, we find that they don't this thing on communication. They don't emphasize on communication. They think that by speaking to one another, it's you are communicating. Yes, you are communicating. Yeah. But in business, the pure form of communication is an induction handbook.
Sure.
When a person comes into the business, how the business functions, they need to understand how the business functions. When you have a meeting, you need to manage that meeting.
Sure.
And that particular meeting, everybody needs to know what's happened, the outcomes of the meeting, and what's going to happen, and who's going to be reporting at the next meeting based on the minutes of the previous meeting.
Sure.
The other thing.
And are you saying that this is not happening in a lot of the family-owned business structures that you deal with, or that you've consulted with, or some of the trends that you've seen in your consultancy business?
Yeah, what happens is that many of them don't even take minutes of meetings. So what we need to do is that we need to get into the culture of taking minutes for meetings. And the most important thing is that the person that's having a function within the business, a person, a role player, a person in HR, example, a person in HR, it's assumed that you're an HR practitioner.
Sure.
Right? You need to come in and you need to do everything about HR. But where's the guideline?
Sure.
Right? There's no guidelines. They say, no, if you went to university, you came from university, you know what to do.
Yeah.
On the other hand, what they'll do is that if they need an HR person, example, they'll just poach a person and say, you know what, I need you to sort out my HR. Right? So
sure.
It's not that. So what happens is that when we get involved in these businesses, and we go into the HR and we find that, you know, that basic things are not there. Basic things in the sense that they think that HR, human resource, is only about managing your time and attendance. But what about your contracts? What about your key performance indicators? What about how the person is going to execute the job?
So,
what about how you're going to maintain the performance? You know, how is all that going to happen? So,
and is this conference kind of speaking to these things that you've mentioned and a lot more going forward? Because, I mean, every question I ask you, you're obviously bringing all these themes out and all of these amazing tools and platforms and different things that even anybody in a general business needs, but obviously is neglected in a family-owned business, which is really the point. And I did read an interesting article or blog that you wrote recently about communication, where you talked about how family business members within the structure sometimes will have a conversation en route to work and consider that to be resolution of things. Why is that such a dangerous path to be taking in a family-owned business?
It's those types of meetings are very emotional meetings. They're not well thought of. They're not rational. Sometimes the people that particular meeting outcomes and resolutions are not documented. And what happens is that those types of meeting increases the conflict within the family. So what we find is that have a structured meeting. But at the same time, even if you have an informal meeting, document the informal meeting, and once you document the informal meeting, you can take it forward. If you don't document the informal meeting, that meeting will cause an issue. We find that, I'll give you a simple example of a family conflict, a native family conflict. Many years ago, this was by assumption, the son was getting married. So the future father-in-law comes to the father of the bridegroom and tells him, you know, what's in it for my son, or for my son-in-law. So the father turned out to him, you see what's here, it's my son's. So many years down the line, the son and the father have a conflict, and the son leaves the business. So what happens is that it becomes a very, very what I call it,
volatile, maybe.
Volatile. It became a volcanic situation where there was a lot of lava spewed out, and that lava that was spewed out was very destructive. So,
what, to the family, to the customers, to the entire chain of...
We were talking about the family. We're talking about the family structure. That's why we're talking about the impact of how family conflicts affects the business structure. But what happened was that after the lava settled down, after all the nonsense, the father of the bride goes back to the dad. Told him, you know what, you remember this conversation we had, and you know what, we need the rights of this thing. So it became a major issue.